So I'm wondering, when I'm looking at what's included here, is there anything for storage? I know at West Park, they never accounted for any storage, and the girls have to bring equipment for so far. Do we have like some sort of storage already at the other fields that now we can bring over?
That would be part of, and I'm not sure if it's specifically designed here, but that's what we've done. We've planned a space to like lay down a cargo container that we could have some storage. Yeah,
Okay.
so that would be part of the, I'm not sure, we'd have to go into deeper design, but we would find a space that made
Yeah.
sense.
Just something.
Yep. So we would do something for storage. It would include, so obviously the varsity softball field has a lot more of the amenities. The JV softball field is a pretty, like you look at a lot of our JV softball and baseball fields, it doesn't have too much to it, but the varsity softball would have, the good bleachers, covered dugouts, bullpens, all of the.
And do we already currently have funding now that will cover this? Or with all the construction we're doing, are we able to
Yes.
move things around?
So there are things to move around. It's always a little difficult to say how much money do we have, because there's money coming in, money going out. We collect about $5 to $10 million a year, every year in developer fees. And so some of those developer fees are being used for the Roseville project you just saw pictures of coming up, the district office being finished. We have a big Oakmont project that's kind of next on the list. So we've discussed in cabinet, and outside of like a big slowdown in developer fees, we feel that we could sustain and build this without having any impact to those big projects we know right now. Now, obviously, that money comes from somewhere, so it's not, that potentially could impact, a future project that the board or district may want to do, where we were hoping to be able to build X that was going to cost $15 million. Now we have $13 million, right? Because it is an extra $2 million. But I would say this is a project that we wanted to do, so it is something that has been priority. It just, the Roseville and Oakmont projects were kind of the ones in the pipeline right now, but especially with some of the issues we've had most recently, and as well as the families who've really voiced a lot of their concerns. That's why we wanted to at least bring it here for consideration and give us an opportunity to talk about it.
Agreed.
I'll add, I really appreciate these questions because they were very similar to mine. And I just am wondering how the softball field, and you've somewhat addressed it, but how it fits into that larger comprehensive plan. What is our larger comprehensive plan? Because it can't just be which parents come to the school board meeting.
Yeah.
And my understanding was we've got Roseville going, and then Oakmont has some real needs. And so does this bump them? And what is it taking away from Oakmont? And can this be put behind Oakmont? Have it on the docket, have it on the plan. I think it's fantastic to do the softball fields. I'm all for it. It's the timing and the funding that are a concern to me of priority. And do we have priorities? Or have we given you priorities? Maybe we need to do that and come up with a larger comprehensive plan so that we know, so these decisions aren't difficult in the future. We know it's coming.
Yeah, and that's true. We have not, the most recent priorities we had from the board, which some of you weren't on the board, were the tail end of our priorities have been the big Roseville project and the large Oakmont project. And outside of that, we hadn't come to the board yet. And so we're kind of in that transition period where we're finishing, and we had a large bond program, which had a lot of specific projects that were approved by the board. And we're moving away from the bond program and now kind of living within our means, where we have like I said, roughly a $5 to $10 million developer fees. There are also other funds. I just got an update on if the state passes a school facility bond, which they're projected to do in November, or they're projected to put on the ballot in November. Whether that passes or not, it historically has usually passed. And what that is a state matching program where they match facility programs, and each site, depending on the age, has eligibility. And I just got it updated as of July. We've got some Oakmont portables that were just met that 20 to 25 year window and then become eligible. So we have about $14 million of eligibility in Oakmont that I wasn't necessarily planning for. Now, granted, the state still has to pass a bond, the voters have to pass it, and we'd have to get the money, and there's usually some delay. So That being said, the money situation is always kind of like a moving target, you know? We've been fortunate in Roseville because of our growing. We talked about West Roseville, so many houses continue to be built. We continue to get money that allows us to pursue these projects where many districts don't have that, and they're having to do their own individual bonds. We actually have some money to be able to consider that. So I kind of rambled there, so I don't know if I answered your question, but.
So would anything, it sounds like we're anticipating money coming in, but we're not actually planning with money that we have. So it's a little bit concerning to me to spend money that we don't have, to commit to a project with money that we don't have. If, you know, if this comes through this fall, that would be fantastic, and then we can plan that, but
Yeah.
That's my concern, is committing to something when we don't have the money yet. And also could shed a little more light for us that weren't here on what is in the Oakmont project, because I think
Yeah.
the Roseville project is all, that's all funded, right?
Yes.
But the Oakmont is the one that we're needing to fund next? Is that
Yeah,
correct?
so.
So what's in that one?
Yeah, so the Roseville project, which is about $40 million approximately, and we've paid a good chunk of that and have more coming this year in the next few years. You've seen what's included in the Roseville. The Oakmont project, we're projecting right now, and it's just a ballpark because we haven't done scoping and designing, but we're looking at the main priorities being a swimming pool. Similar to Roseville, they have a very, very old swimming pool that's on its last legs. And so we want to build a new swimming pool that's similar to what we have at Granite Bay, West Park, and what Roseville will soon have. And we're also looking at building a new classroom building, similar to what we have, what you saw at Roseville, maybe a 2-story, maybe a 1-story classroom building that would fit in with the campus, and removing a lot of their portables and giving them a new classroom. And so there's probably some other TLC we'd love to do at Oakmont. I know we talked about their cafeteria needing a little bit of a facelift. So there's always a lot of, and then there's some things that aren't as visible, you know, like we're, you know, getting the roofs touched up, you know, and working on some of the concrete asphalt repairs and stuff like that. But those are the big, so I don't envision the Oakmont project being as big as Roseville, but still a big project that we're projecting. Right now, with my estimations of what I plan to get over the next 4 years, I see that we will have the $30-ish million to be able to do the Oakmont project over the next couple of years, and believe that we could fit in this Wood Creek project. I think some considerations the board could do would be to, we could just get approval to only do the design for right now, which is a smaller than $2 million cost, which allows us that window to potentially construct next summer if the board wanted to. Or it could be waited, you know, we could get the design and kind of put it in a binder and wait until we had the funds. So that's another option to consider.
Are there any aspects of building those fields that you can do, like, you know, the wiring ahead of time, like maybe some of the underground work, but then hold off, like I'm thinking the scoreboard? You know, like some of the expenses, is there a way you can do most of it, but then kind of?
Yeah, I mean, we could. I think some of the time, though, you kind of lose a little bit of economies of scale when you get the trucks and you hire the contractor. We looked into, I even talked to my facility director about, what about just doing the varsity softball field and saving the JV field for later? The bulk of the cost is the varsity field. It has all the amenities, and you're already bringing out the trucks to dig and do all the groundwork. And so could we save a few $100,000? Sure, but would we want to save $300,000 to spend $400,000 later, right? Because we're not. Does that make sense? And so that's where we think if we're going to do the project, it would make sense to kind of just get it all done, you know? Because we're not talking about, well, $2 million makes a lot of sense to me and to probably all of us, but with the district dollars, it's not as much as it is to just us.
Sarah, did you have some questions?
I have a comment.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. Is comment time?
Yes.
I just wanted to say thank you for like getting this like even started. I just wanted to I am a member of the Wood Creek softball team, and we have missed countless school hours because we have to have more away games rather than home games due to having or not having our own field where we can personally work on it. So I just wanted to say thank you, and I know that this won't be done in my time, but it's going to save a lot of girls a lot of trouble in the future. So thank you.
Right. Any comments?
I'm going back to a question.
Okay.
So,
Loud.
so Tiffany alluded to the fact we don't have the money, and I assume we do have the money, it just be kind of moving buckets. So in the sense that if we did approve, there is money to pay for this. You're just,
Yeah, for instance, the Oakmont project, we have money,
You're pulling from
some of that, and the Roseville project, we have 40 million, we don't spend all that today, right? That happens
right.
over the next couple years. The district office, that's still being built, and so it's kind of a flowing thing, and so I have a multi-year kind of planning out where the money's coming and
you're
going.
shuffling a little bit.
A little bit,
trusting that
and
in
I
a
have
few years-
projections on how much money is coming in. Like a big dollar amount that's coming in the next month is state matching money for West Park Phase 2. So nothing to do with these, but it's money we already spent on West Park Phase 2. The state's just so far behind in paying their percentage share. That's $28 million that we've already been approved, it's coming, it's just the cash is coming in probably next month. And so there's always a little bit of, estimation, but there's dollars I know that are coming, and there's dollars that could come. Like I mentioned, if the state passes the bond, that's something that could come. Historically, we've always had some state matching money. It may be delayed a bit because they need to pass another bond, but usually the state has supported, and it's not the matching for new facilities, because you have old schools across the state of California that need a lot of work. So like Roseville and Oakmont. So that's where there are funds there. But yeah,
Can you explain, so you're saying that the estimate would be roughly 2 million.
yeah.
What if you send it to the designer and we approve it and they say, you know what, the cost of turf has tripled and this is now a $5 million project? What happens then? Or does that ever happen?
That would be a big change.
Right.
But
Or
it
some
definitely
reason.
happens where it's higher or lower. These are estimates and costs can go up. What would happen is we'd get the design, and near the end of the design process, we get an update from the designer on, here's what we think now that we've picked out the fence and all the details, here's what we think our latest estimate is. And we would go out, for a project like this, we would go out to bid. And so there's always a little bit of uncertainty when you go out to bid. We try to get as much competition as we can, because that helps drive the price down. When we get 6 or 7 contractors bidding on it, we know we're gonna get a good deal. And so there are times where I've brought projects, I think it's gonna be 2 million, and we got one bidder and it's 2.9 million or 3 million. And then we have to decide, do we still wanna do it? Do we wanna table it and go out to bid again? There are options we could consider in that. But any bid would have to come to the board before we'd move forward. So if you approve me to design and go out to bid, I would still have to bring the bids to the board, and the board would still have to say, and if I brought it for $3 million and you could say, we want to see more financials, we don't think, we don't want to, and you could say, no, we're not going to do this project, or we'll table it. So that's an option. Or the option would be, we could design still has a cost to it, right? If we're going through the design process and going into DSA, that's a few $100,000, like $200,000 or $300,000. But we'd have the design ready to go. So
We know it's something we have to do eventually anyway.
yes, I think so.
So, you feel like by doing this, it's not going to put anything off for the Oakmont project?
Correct. I feel confident, and we feel confident in Cabinet that the Oakmont project, what we see as the highest needs, getting a swimming pool, doing some of those TLC projects, and getting them a new classroom building, that roughly $30 million that we have the capacity to be able to continue doing that project.
So it won't put them off in time, or what can be done?
No, we're the design for Oakmont, we're planning to start it probably about a year from now. And a lot of that doesn't really have to do with the money. It has to do with more of the staff time and energy it requires. We're still finishing the district office, and we've got Scott Davis as our facility guru. And so right now, he's working lots of hours getting the district office finished, as well as going knee-deep with the design of the Roseville. A project like this, you would say, okay, this is pretty easy on the facility side for Scott's time, because we have done these fields before. There's a little bit of work. We get an architect. They work with the site to make sure we're putting the cargo container in the right spot. So there's not that there's no work, but it's not the level of an Oakmont or Roseville project where there's many, many hours of time put into it. So I feel comfortable that it wouldn't delay the Oakmont project or cause us to not be able to do the big projects we have. I do think, like I said earlier, it does come from somewhere. So I feel confident the Oakmont project's good, but at the end of the day, that's $2 million less for whatever else the board determines and is the next priority, right? So.
I guess I'm just thinking too, this is all great. I know I have a lot of questions about this. But,
it's good.
a few things. One, is there a long-term plan? And if there's not, then we need to give you direction to create one.
Yeah.
So that we know. If we do this, what is potential to come from other schools that say, you know what, we've actually been really needing this thing, X, Y, or Z. So I just want to make sure that we're making a good decision.
Yep.
That's not just that, making a good decision that we are intending to make and not just responding to requests coming in.
Yeah. I do have a bit of a semi-long-term plan of some of those the Roseville, Oakmont projects, but I don't have after we finish the bond program, I will say, and John can maybe correct me, that a lot of that really big needs we've addressed and will have addressed after this Roseville and Oakmont project. I'm certain more needs are coming, so I'm not ignoring that. But I think with the bond program before in 2016, we had a lot of needs across the district, and I feel like most of them have been addressed as far as kind of with some of those equity things, like you saw it with the stadium snack room or snack bars that we have at every site. We have the same thing. We're getting our swimming pools. Everybody's going to have kind of the same swimming pool, tennis courts, baseball, softball. And I think Roseville and Oakmont were kind of the priority of making sure that they had modern classrooms. The only other project is over at West Park. We need a third phase at West Park, which would be a theater and another classroom building. But that's a little different because we have a separate bond that's going to be funding the majority of that, as they have separate tax structure over there. So anyway, I'm losing my voice.
Would there be any downside to not make that decision tonight, but move it to, say, the next board meeting, or give you more time to maybe give us, not that you can do that by the next board meeting, but give a more comprehensive, is there anything that's urgent that it gets approved tonight?
I don't think it would have to be approved like tonight. I do think the design, if we wanted to consider building this coming summer, 2025, we would need to get approval to start the design sometime in the next few months, because it does take a long time to design and going through the DSA. So waiting a couple weeks or a month before approval, that's not going to risk summer of 2025. But if we didn't get approval till, let's say, the fall to do the design, then that would potentially move it to, the earliest we could do it would maybe be either summer of 2026 or doing it during the school year potentially, which has impacts to the site and the campus. So that's all I would say. But yes, we could, it doesn't have to be decided today.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I'm thinking about softball, period, as my daughter's been playing the last few years, and there's not a lot of softball fields in the city. It seems like they're always rented, especially the travel teams. They have a hard time finding places. Would this also give us an option of other teams that want to use the facility as like an income generator? Because they charge the teams, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a huge income generator, but it is, we typically use our fields quite a bit, and then often the coaches don't necessarily like other people using their fields, but it does give us that ability. And we do have a joint use agreement with the city. They don't use it too much, but it would give us the option to allow it to be used, especially during the off seasons. That's a possibility.
Yeah, I'm thinking summer and fall, especially for travel ball, that it really would be an asset to the community, because we're really short. You know, we're growing so much. I think it would be a blessing to a lot of teams.
I think the piece is, more so ours is freeing up Mahaney. So if we're not using Mahaney in the long term, that would give the city a lot more use. Because right now, we're kind of commandeering Mahaney for a good portion of the year for varsity and JV softball, so, yeah.
Right, I mean, and it sounds, I think it might feel like it came out of nowhere because we had parents come rebut it recently, but it's been an ongoing issue for a long time. For years. Talked about it, so it's. Right,
Yeah, I dealt with this.
Oh, sorry, this wasn't on.
What was it with Lindsay's time, though? That's what we're.
Right, yeah,
We don't have records.
yeah. Right, yeah.
Not that long ago.
So I feel, I mean, to me, it feels like while we don't have a formal list, which I like the idea of having a more, these are the priorities. This is kind of what's coming down the pipeline. I think had there been a list, this would have been on it. It's an ongoing thing that's been needed for a long time, and the weather is what made our field, the Mahaney fields are right next to my desk. The weather is what really impacted them, but it's been an issue for a long time, and anytime it's going to be a weather issue every year, it's going to happen again. So I
Yeah,
feel like.
sometimes, some years are worse than others, and it's kind
Yeah,
of hard
I
to
mean, it's
tell.
just been something that's needed to happen for a long time. And then we've got a Title IX issue that clearly is time sensitive. So, I mean, I feel comfortable with it. So I think it just is, what we want to do. Does anybody want to entertain a motion
So
or
can I make a
more
motion?
questions?
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
I'd like to, so I'll make a motion to start the design process, to allow you to start the design process. And then if you could come back with, let's say, a 10-year projection of the big projects that are ahead, as well as the the smaller maintenance projects, because I've seen the smallest for Grant Bay, right? I'm
Yeah.
sure every school has that. So just to give us a sense of what the other priorities are in the coming, in the coming 10, we'll say 10 years. I don't know, is 10 years reasonable? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean,
You're laughing. I'm not sure.
No, it is,
5,
but
because
there's always a little, the further you go out, there's a little more guesswork.
know,
But I definitely could
but-
put some estimates.
Okay, 7. Well, at
No, I
least
can do it.
5.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I have
just-
about 5 years
Okay,
already,
I know
so.
you probably have 5, but,
Yeah.
but
You want 5 or do you want 10?
I want, you know what?
How about 8.5? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I want.
can definitely work on
And
the-
I'm not kidding. I want 7 because I think 5 is too small.
Okay.
All right, I want
Yep.
7 years out. 10, yes, we're gonna go 7.
I will second getting the plan started and some basic bids and the 7-year projections. for-
Let me be clear, though, also, before you go ahead, it's approval of the design, but the bid part is going out to bid. Do you want to wait for me to give you the 7-year projections before going out to bid?
I would be okay with you going out to bid in that time.
I mean, actually, the
right?
7-year will probably be, going out to bid would probably be next February, March. So, I think I
Okay.
could get the 7-year,
Okay.
well, I could probably get the 7-year sometime in the next month or two, so.
Okay.
February or March for bids, and then they'd be able to start and finish it by summer?
They could do all the work during the summer, the majority of it. There may be a little bit of prep work, but it's a project that we've done that could be done mostly during the summer.
Well, if it would motivate you to get that 7-year projection done, then you can bring it back, and then we'll just officially vote on the whole
I don't like
priority
things
list,
hanging
right?
over, so I like to get
So-
things done. So I
Okay.
would be working on the 7-year.
Okay.
And one just for consideration too, is we typically, before this, I had been on the list to start having some of these facility conversations and starting with the facility committee, which actually I don't even know who's on the facility committee, finance facility committee. I know that changed
We
recently.
have a finance committee, but I don't think we have.
It's the same.
Oh, is it the same? Okay, well,
Okay.
I think it's me.
I forgot who was
I
put on
know
it
I'm on
recently.
that.
So that would be something, it would ultimately go to the full board for priorities, but that would be something I would probably draft something up and maybe would work with the finance facility committee to kind of get feedback along the way before bringing it to the board for further, but anyway.
Yeah.
Approval.
personally, I think we can go beyond 7 years. I'm on an HOA board, and we have out, multi-years for maintenance items that we know, okay, this is going
Yep.
to probably need to be fixed in 10 years and 15 years, and we're always
Yeah.
saving for that. So it doesn't seem like a far stretch to have a
Yeah, and-
much longer.
And I
time
have
period.
ones, like, for instance, the synthetic football fields and the tracks, I have those like 25 years. And so there's definitely ones I have that are that old, and I can work on doing like 10 years on.
How about definitely 7, but if you already know beyond, then just add it. How's that?
Because we do have, and similar to, we've got different funding sources, so it does get a little, we've got Fund 25 developer fees, that's a lot of our modernization, new big projects, but we also have our deferred maintenance fund, which does a lot of we're repairing the roofs and we're fixing the asphalt, and then I have the Fund 40, which is the one we used for, we set aside money for the tracks and the fields that we know have a useful life. We've been pleasantly surprised the last couple of years, those have been lasting a lot longer than the first iteration of those, and so.
Is this work then that can be handled in the finance committee and then brought to the board for?
That's what my suggestion would be, but I would take that would be, my initial thought was working, ultimately, it's the full board's going to give us approval, but the finance committee can kind of hash it out, could say, Joe, you're in the wrong, you really should do 10 years on this too, or, whatever it is. And that way, that committee can give me feedback along the way, if that sounds good to the board.
So there's a motion on the floor, a second. Kim, do you know what it is? Do we need to repeat it? Are we good?
A motion to start design and bid of Wood Creek High School softball fields. Come back to the board with a 7 to 10 year planned projection,
Facility projections, yeah.
facility, okay?
Yeah, what are we asking you to project exactly? Because we've got kind of the rolling maintenance, but then we're also, are we talking capital improvements, or what are we saying that 7 to 10 year is?
I was thinking it was all of those. So in my mind, I've got Fund 25 developer fees, which is like the capital improvement plan, as well as our deferred maintenance projections for the next 7 to 10 years. And I would include, because I already have it pretty much, is the fields, the synthetic field turf scoreboards. We have a separate fund, so I can put all those three.
Do we know when the facility committee meets again? Or
I haven't scheduled one yet, but we don't, whenever I'm ready. No, we have a for sure meeting every November when we talk about the audit report. But outside of that, it's been as needed. And so I would probably, where are we at? May 14th? I would think maybe I would look at something in August or, so I'd have the summer to work on it. And I'm thinking everybody might have summer plans and may be difficult to schedule, but.
So that committee is, I just looked it up, Marla and Heidi.
And I could, because I know there's some board members who are not on the committee, I could also, as I'm drafting it up, I could send it in the week, like a Friday update, so you kind of see my progress. And that way, even if you're not on the committee, you could reach out to me individually if you have questions or things you want me to address, if that works.
I'm comfortable with that.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Do we go around on this one?
Or- It's up to you. Yeah, it's not a resolution. but-
have to be a roll call.
Okay, let's just start with the students then.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Carson. Carson,
Yes.
Sarah,
Yes.
Marla,
Yes.
Tiffany,
Yes.
Heidi, yes.
Carrie, yes.
All right. Unanimously approved, 4-0
Well,
with.
thank you for the discussion. This was really, I know it maybe caught some people by surprise, but I also think it was good it's hard to have these discussions, and this is a good opportunity for us to talk about it. So thank you for that.
Thank you for all of your information. And we will move on to 6.2, approval of New Pacific School Annual Performance Report. And I believe that's Paul?
And Lisa Voss.
Oh, Lisa. Sorry about that. Okay, come on up.
There we go. Good evening. In addition to my role as adult school principal, I'm also the liaison to both of our charter schools. So I'd like to introduce tonight Paul Kiefer. He's the executive director of Pacific Charter Institute, and Eric Garber. He's the principal at New Pacific Charter, and they're going to talk about some of the updates to their school. And do we need to do something separate for the material revision? I know it's a vote. Okay. Okay, it's already on there. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing us to be here. My wife was a high school counselor at Wood Creek, so I will let her know the news that the fields are going to be changing shortly, possibly, based on the analysis. My name is Paul Kiefer. I'm the executive director, and this has been a long journey in a short period of time. It's been really rewarding, but also really revealing about when you come up with an idea or a concept for a school, who is looking for what we have to offer, and so. Wait, a clicker. So we'll be as brief as we possibly can, but also try to give you a clear picture of where we are. So I'll talk about the successes and challenges in year 1 and year 2, and then Principal Eric Garber will talk about how we're going to increase our momentum for year 3. And so the next page. So to begin, we opened the school in 2022. Gratefully, during a crazy time. I think we all remember that, and I appreciate the district's willingness to walk that walk with us. It's under Pacific Charter Institute, which is a nonprofit which has been around for 20 years, and we have 6 schools within the organization. New Pacific Charter serves, it's a small school, project-based, personalized learning. The whole goal is small, personalized TK-12, and the school has 3 facilities, including a schoolhouse, a newly installed portables, and a shared church across the street. So that's where we are to date, and there's a lot of work that went into that. So I want to read a parent voice. The parents have been incredible. The students have been incredible. We've attracted students from a wide range of backgrounds. So my son is in the 6th grade, and he has friends for the first time at school. He actually has a ton of friends, and he's so excited to come to school every day. He feels like he can be himself at school and doesn't have to pretend to be someone else in order to fit in. And 2 visited during a cultural event, and the students have capes, and they're doing their play in which the older students are watching the younger students, and so the relationships are terrific between the olders and the youngers. Next slide. Currently, we're 134 students. And really where we were surprised is the number of students with special needs that came to us. And so we're at 36% students with special needs. We also have a considerable number of low-income students. And so really, we knew we wanted to attract students who needed that personal attention. And I feel like we've done that successfully. If you go to the next page, you'll see the zip codes we are actually servicing, and you'll see that we're 60% in district and 74% out of, or 74 students out of district. And that small but mighty staff down below is making sure this runs really well. Year 1 successes. We opened the school and reached full enrollment target by the fall. And I know in another role that I have, the charter schools that are open, they had a real time struggling. They struggled quite a bit to reach their enrollment goals. So it's a real credit to Principal Garber and the model that we're attracting students, which has been great. We successfully launched The Leader in Me, which is the Franklin Covey 7 Habits, which we're super excited about, and we're pushing that across all of Pacific Charter Institute. We retained all the years. We retained all the teachers for year 2. And year 1 was super hard. And so what a credit to them to have that fortitude and perseverance. And then it was great. We met the threshold for middle track. The state came out with that ranking, and so we met at year 1. And it's fantastic. I mean, that was great. And when we look back on it, there's just so many great events and moments for students to reveal their inner greatness. Year 1 challenges. Launching all the academic initiatives that we had in the charter in the first year across all the grade levels. Facilities, work, are and continue to be difficult. And then starting a new concept school. This was the first out of concept into action. Year 2 successes. Launching the early literacy program, which has been incredible in because if students can't read by the 3rd grade and be literate, they're going to have real struggles. And so we put a real focus on that at Pacific Shore Institute. In particular, 98% of parents attended their children's portfolio and their presentation of their work for the year. Am I saying that almost correctly?
Portfolio presentation.
Whew. Thank you.
And not just one.
Great, thank you. We have deep PCI roots that help the school, so we were able to reach into PCI to help in any area where they were needing additional help. Obviously with special education, they needed a lot of experts to come in and support the students that we were enrolling. The staff was very flexible. As facilities had issues, they were able to move them to their appropriate places so they'd be successful. And once again, as I said earlier, they all are with us still. So we're finishing our 2nd year. Our challenges, of course, the large number of special education students. It's required us to really be nimble and think what's going to be best for the individual students as well as the whole of the student population. Launching the project-based learning and the FIABs, which is a formative interim assessment blocks, something we've done organizationally wide, and we're still getting our feet under ourselves at the school site. Facilities are still a problem. Student retention, because of the facilities, we felt like we were losing students because we couldn't give them that great experience, both physical as well as the emotional and instructional. And then average daily attendance, which I think many districts across the state are having issues with. We feel like we can get better at it, and we have. At this point, I'm going to give it to Eric so he can take us to the rest of the way.
So I'll push into year 3, which is this coming fall as we wrapped up year 2. Facilities, the nice news is, and this is in the charter as well too, is we're going to be actually expanding to another facility in the fall, which we'll be leasing as well. It'll be our elementary campus. The current building that's on Clinton Street, which is near Vernon Street, it's an old house. I was actually told by a neighbor that lives by, there was actually a school back in the 1800s, burned down, a house built again, became a Montessori school in the 80s, and then 90s it was also a school, and then we're carrying on the tradition as another school and a schoolhouse. We have lunch every day on the porch. It's a really pleasant facility. That's where we added the 3 modular homes. It's a wonderful neighborhood. Parents throw the balls back over the fence. They greet us every morning, they walk their dogs or get their coffee at Shady Coffee, which is just like 2 blocks away. So it's a really pleasant, quaint neighborhood that we love being a part of, and that's where our secondary students will be. You can see a couple of them there in one of the modulars we put in on the campus. I have an enrichment class where I do robotics with a couple of our junior high kids in the bottom, building the robot for the first time. And then thinking of academics, one thing that Dr. Kiefer pointed out is we do have portfolios. We're a project-based school. We're going to really focus on getting our teachers up to speed on what that means. In a nutshell, we're focused on kids being practitioners. They're scientists, mathematicians, readers, writers, and historians, and it represents through portfolios. And on top of that, we're going to be identifying specifically, where can they improve some essential skills within those domains. And so that's why we are going to be adding some different instructional materials, and then also launching all of that with the content assessments and frameworks for the fall. And so really, it's been an accelerated process of many things all at once. One thing that we have gotten right is the real strong relationships with the staff. If you ever started a school together, it's a really tight-knit group of dedicated educators and a really tight-knit group of families that have jumped on board with a plane that they knew we were building while we were flying it. And you can see all of our our different facilities up there on those pictures. And as we work to build this, getting them there every day and also having them come back next year and focusing on those values is what we've done the first 2 years and continue year 3. The last thing I wanted to say as I look into a couple of student quotes is the other thing that we've really been fortunate to be a part of is joining the Roseville High School District community. We've had an incredible relationship, not only with Lisa Voss, she's the one that I meet with. I get to go to the adult-led classes. I've met some of her teachers as well, too. We just started using transportation, and so we were renting school buses from the Roseville Joint District as well. We've been taking our first field trips on real school buses. And through all of these encounters that we've had with the district, it's been a very beneficial relationship. We feel like we are a part of the community, and a lot of the families that we do have are members of the high school district and their children at our school, and we do mirror the calendar so it works well for all families. And it's been a relationship that we're so happy to be a part of, and it's really coming out in the students. And the big focus is building relationships where every kid has a champion on campus. And I just walked through a couple classes and just said, hey, tell me what you like about the school, or tell me something about the school. And I wrote down a couple of them for the last slide on the presentation. Amelia, she just pointed out, she's like, I actually have all these questions. And I love that I finally can ask the questions I want to ask, and my teacher lets me turn them into projects that our class is doing. They just started a huge unit that came from some of the questions from Amelia. And so a lot of the projects they do are collaboratives that are serendipitous as well as planned. And so that's a nice mixture of the two worlds. And the other is summed up well by Kate. And we have kind teachers that listen to them. Every decision we make, we always ask, well, is this going to benefit the students, and is this a student first decision? And if it's not, like, what's holding us from that decision? And then we make that decision what's best for them. And it's clear that we care for them. Every kid has at least 2 adults. We go down the list to make sure every kid has 2 adult strong advocates. So whether it's an IEP meeting or a parent conference or just in the parking lot, every kid has a strong advocate. Every teacher has parking lot duty. I'm the crossing guard. And so every morning I get to say hi to every parent. I know every car they drive. And we do it on purpose so that you can have a 5-minute conversation with your teacher and it's not pulling away from coverage. Because as long as all parents don't do it on a simultaneous day, we can handle it. And so it works out. And so it really just builds a strong community. And it's a small school that we really wanted to build. And we thank you for supporting us 2 years ago as we first proposed it, and as we give this first report to you as well. But we did sum up everything we thought would be important tonight, but obviously you have your own thoughts and questions. And so that's the final slide, is any questions that you might want to ask of us about what life has been like since we started 2 years ago and where we're going next year.
Thanks, you guys, so much. I hear about your campus all the time, and I see good things always on Facebook. There's all these forums, and the parents will chime in. My K-8 school isn't meeting my needs. What do we do? And every day it's New Pacific Charter. Try this little school. We love it. And so I always am happy to see that it's going so well, but then I wondered, what some of the things are that you addressed, challenges of that growth, and if you guys are able to handle it, and what, other things you might need. So that was really helpful just to see all of those questions answered, because I hear good press about you guys all the time. So anyway, any questions from anyone? Or
I do, because
Okay.
I wasn't here when you first came. So tell me why we're a high school district and you are K-8. So how are you connected to us?
Yeah, so we're authorized TK-12. You're not allowed to start a charter school by an authorizer unless you encompass their grade levels as well. And so we actually will have our first high school group. We have 3 8th graders are going to be 9th graders, and that's part of the petition that change that we're looking to hopefully get adopted tonight, because we want to keep them. And it is going to be that same small group, project-based learning, tying in, as I heard, the conversations about community college and access to the community. I know that Dr. Garber was at Chamber today, and they talked about the possibility for internships for our students. So just trying to be a tighter piece of the community. But we are TK-12, and yes.
In 4 years, we'll have our first graduating class.
Yes, that's.
Yeah. So one of those 2 scholars you saw in the picture of the robots, he's one of our 8th graders. So he'll be our 9th grader, and then he'll be our first graduating class in 4 years. So it's a growth plan.
Yeah.
So you'll have 3 9th graders in the fall, but I think I've read that you're hoping for 25 as the max?
We're hoping for 25,
Okay.
which would be the max.
Okay.
Yes.
So over the summer,
Yeah.
you might add more to that.
Yes, and the school is managed in a multi-grade level fashion already, similar to Montessori, and we do that because it builds out the strengths of the students. I saw that with my own son, who was in Montessori for 3 years, and so that's what we wanted to build into the charter. Although we're not a Montessori school, that multi-grade helps also for flexibility for teachers and matching students for ability level, so we can be more acute for the Common Core standards.
Well, I only have a comment. My very first year teaching without a credential, I taught in a multi-aged school that was project-oriented, and there were no grades, only portfolio-based in terms of how are the kids learning, and they presented their own portfolios. So kudos to you. It's a very special environment, and it does offer a lot of flexibility in terms of, what wheel you're on for grade level teaching, and lots of experiences. And I don't know, in my experience, the kids really thrived and they took ownership of their learning. So that's very special.
Thank you so much. And you certainly are welcome. It's always open. Dr. Garber does great tours. And so no snacks, but great tours.
One other question out of curiosity, what students are you trying to pull into your school? Like, what's your mission statement? What's your core? Is it just the Stephen Covey, let me grow, or whatever? I don't know what it was.
Leader in me? Yeah.
So what is the?
So it's a small school, Leader in Me, foundation of Leader in Me with project-based learning and multi-grade. That's the foundation. Our target when we do the lottery, because everything has to be lottery, the priority goes to low-income students directly within the community of the school, and then low-income outside of that. And so we've achieved having a high low-income population of students, which is great, because I like to say they're getting a $30,000 a year education for free. And I say that because we actually had someone visit our school, and she was talking about her child goes to a school called Redbridge in San Francisco, and it's $35,000 a year. And I said, I appreciate that compliment. So it's really creating an opportunity for students that they wouldn't get otherwise.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment. One, it's nice to work. It's a very collaborative effort with Paul and his team over there. And really what it comes down to is we know we have a lot of diverse perspectives, wants, desires, values that our families bring to us in the greater Roseville community, and having educational options for families is important. And we all live in Roseville, so we just want to have an educated community, and I think they provide an option that's different from the other standard options that we have, and I think that's the positive that they bring to our community. And they're growing and working through facilities and overcoming their challenges, and again, we support what Paul and his team are doing.
Okay, so is there a motion on the floor to?
Let's see, what am I making a motion on? I'm trying to see the exact wording. A
It's
motion.
just to approve their material revisions and their annual.
I will make a motion to approve the New Pacific School Annual Performance Report and Material Revision.
I'll second that.
At me.
All right. Motion made, second made, and roll call vote?
Or you can
We just go around. Okay, Carson?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Marla?
Yes.
Yes.
Heidi, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Motion approved, 4-0, 1 absent. I would love to come and take a tour, even if there's no snacks.
Make it quick,
You can bring your own.
Right, I'll bring my own muffins. Yeah. So moving into our public hearing, we open to public hearing. Is there any? Go.
First of all, I want to say I've never once heard Ms. Cuneo say darling to anything that Pete has said in the past. So you got a darling. That was a darling comment. So no, the purpose of this item is to allow public comment on the contract proposals that will be negotiated between CSEA and the district for the 24-25 school year. CSEA Chapter 459 has submitted the attached proposal, which is they want to open up Article 5, pay and allowances, they propose to negotiate a fair and equitable salary increase for all classifications represented by CSEA. Article 6, health and welfare benefits, propose to negotiate a fair and equitable increase to the district's monthly contribution to the health and welfare benefits for all classifications represented by CSEA, as well as Article 28. They propose to negotiate language and changes to this article to clarify and streamline the article, as well as its intention to include seniority usage as part of the transfer procedure. So at this time, it's appropriate for the board to ask for public comment on these contract proposals.
Is there any public comment for the contract proposals? Hearing closed.
Okay. And there's no action that needs to be taken. If there were comments, you would forward those on to us as part of the negotiations. And then, we ready for the next one?
Ready.
So this is the district sunshining its proposal. Specifically, we are opening Article 5, pay and allowances. Language is going to be a little bit different. We were going to consider an increase in compensation within current budget constraints, including the existing negotiating salary provisions, statutory budget requirements, and ensuring decisions related to collective bargaining are made with regard to the present and future fiscal integrity of the district. Article 6, health and welfare benefits, proposed to review the current health and welfare contributions. And then Article 4, hours and overtime, district proposes to amend language in several sections of the article, including but not limited to seniority and seniority list, definitions of terms, and summer school assignments. Again, it's appropriate for the board to ask for public comment on the district's sunshine proposals.
Is there anyone here for public comment? Seeing none, public hearing closed.
Appreciate that. We'll sit down with CSEA. We have a couple of negotiating sessions already scheduled for mid-May, which is getting close.
All right. Awesome. We are on to staff reports. Any staff comments? None? Okay. So we have our pending agenda items on 9.1 that you guys can take a look at. Lots of fun things coming up. And then we just need a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
And I'll second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All
And
right.
hey, good job, Heidi.
Do I get to?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned. Yeah.